Hi everyone, I've got an incredible story to share with you today, one that might completely change how you think about spirituality and faith. It's about Rich Zachary Blackwood Sadek, a young Christian whose life took an extraordinary turn when he encountered Jesus. You won't want to miss this. Before we dive in, let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. And if you love Jesus as much as we do, make sure to subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss inspiring content like this. Now let's get into it. In a shocking near-death experience, former gay man Zachary Blackwood uncovered a terrifying truth about life after death that forever changed him. What he witnessed will leave you absolutely speechless. I'm Zachary Blackwood, 47 years old, and I live in Burlington, Vermont. Before I tell you about my near-death experience, let me share a bit about who I was. I lived in a cozy 2-story house near Lake Champlain and worked as a graphic designer at a local advertising agency. I was openly gay and had been in a 3-year relationship with Marcus. The morning of my accident started like any other. I was driving to work in my Subaru Outback, sipping on my usual caramel macchiato. The fall colors were breathtaking and the crisp morning air was refreshing. I'd just finished a phone call with Marcus about our weekend plans when, out of nowhere, a massive moose appeared on Route 7. If you're from Vermont, you know moose accidents aren't rare, but nothing prepares you for the sheer terror of a 500-pound animal suddenly in your path. I swerved to avoid it, but at 65 miles per hour, my car spun out of control. The last thing I remember was my coffee cup flying through the air as my car tumbled down a steep cliff. The crash was catastrophic. My car slammed into several trees before coming to a halt in a ditch. The driver's side was completely crushed, and I was pinned between the seat and the steering wheel. I later learned that a passing truck driver spotted my taillights through the trees and called 911. The rescue was a nightmare. The steep slope made it nearly impossible for emergency workers to reach me. It took over an hour to free me from the wreckage. By that time, I had lost a significant amount of blood. I had 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, internal bleeding, severe head trauma, and countless bruises. But what happened during that hour changed everything. Stay tuned, because what I'm about to share will challenge everything you think you know about life and death. The sound of rescue tools slicing through metal echoed around me, mingling with frantic voices shouting instructions. The helicopter blades roared overhead, cutting through the chaos. I was rushed to the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington. Later, the doctors told me something that still sends chills down my spine. I died twice in that helicopter, once for 3 minutes and again for 4. Marcus, my partner, was at work when he got the call. He rushed to the hospital, but by the time he arrived, I was already in emergency surgery. The doctors gave me a mere 20% chance of survival. It took multiple surgeries to stop the internal bleeding and repair the extensive damage to my organs. But what truly changed me forever happened during those minutes when my heart stopped. What I experienced wasn't like the peaceful, serene, near-death stories you often hear. It was vivid, raw, and utterly terrifying. Before this, I was content with my life. I had a successful career, a loving partner, and a comfortable lifestyle. Raised Catholic, I hadn't set foot in a church since high school. Religion wasn't something I thought I needed. I believed that if there was a God, He would accept me just as I was. But in those moments of clinical death, I saw how wrong I'd been. The experience shook me to my core, forcing me to confront truths I'd avoided my whole life. It didn't just challenge my beliefs, it completely redefined my understanding of existence. The moment my heart stopped, it was as if a switch had been flipped. It wasn't like falling asleep or fainting, it was instant and shockingly clear. I felt myself separate from my body, hovering above the helicopter. I could see the paramedics working desperately on my lifeless form below, but I felt strangely detached, as though watching a scene in a movie. Then it happened. A tunnel appeared, but not the comforting, warm light you often hear about. This was a swirling vortex, pulling me in with unimaginable force. The sensation was terrifying, like being sucked through a vacuum at impossible speeds. Colors I couldn't even describe swirled around me, and a deep, resonant hum vibrated through my entire being. As I hurtled through this tunnel, my entire life was laid bare before me, not as memories, but as a simultaneous experience of everything I had ever done. Every lie I had told, every person I had hurt, every selfish choice, it all had a weight, a crushing physical force that bore down on me. The most heart-wrenching part was seeing my relationships. I saw Marcus, but not in the loving, happy light I was used to. Instead, I saw the truth, the ways I had failed him, taken him for granted, and caused harm without even realizing it. What I had always justified as love was revealed to be something far more harmful, causing spiritual damage to both Marcus and me. Each intimate moment we shared appeared as dark, inky stains spreading through clear water, leaving an indelible mark on our souls. I was taken back to my childhood, to the time I first realized I was different from other boys. I remembered the confusion, the fear, and eventually, the defiance. I had pushed back against traditional values, rejecting the teachings of my early religious upbringing. But now, seeing it from this new perspective, I understood how each step away from those roots had led me further from the truth. The experience in the tunnel felt like it lasted for hours, though I'm sure it was only seconds in real time. Then suddenly, everything stopped. I found myself in a vast, indescribable space, not dark, not light, just an overwhelming presence of existence. And I wasn't alone. A being approached me. It had no physical form, yet I knew instantly who it was: Jesus Christ. The recognition wasn't just intellectual, it was deeply innate, like remembering something you've always known, but somehow forgotten. His presence was overwhelming, radiating pure, unconditional love, but also carrying a power and authority that made me want to fall to my knees. This wasn't the gentle, soft-spoken Jesus from Sunday school images. This was the King of Kings, the judge of all creation. In his presence, every excuse, every justification I had ever made for my choices dissolved into nothingness. I couldn't hide, not from him and not from myself. He didn't speak with words. Instead, his message came directly into my consciousness, a wave of understanding that was undeniable. He loved me more deeply and fiercely than I could have imagined. But that love wasn't an acceptance of all my choices. In that moment, I saw clearly how the life I had embraced, the identity I had built, was in direct opposition to his design. He showed me that my orientation itself wasn't the sin. It was the choice to act on it, to embrace it, to make it the core of who I was. I saw how these choices had rippled out to affect not only me, but also those around me. Every time I encouraged someone to be true to themselves by embracing the same path I had taken, I was, without realizing it, leading them away from the truth and from salvation. Then came the most difficult part. Jesus showed me others, countless souls who had made the same choices I had. They were in a place I can only describe as a holding space, not hell, but not heaven either. They were stuck, trapped in their own justifications and unwilling to accept the truth about their decisions. What struck me most was that many of these souls had been religious, even devout Christians. But their unwillingness to acknowledge the consequences of their choices had left them unable to move forward, caught in a limbo of their own making. I saw how many people, including myself, had interpreted Scripture in ways that justified their lifestyles instead of aligning with God's true design. This deliberate misinterpretation created a barrier between them and genuine salvation. Then, the presence of Jesus guided me to witness something that still sends chills through me. I saw glimpses of hell, not the cartoonish depiction of red devils and pitchforks, but something far more terrifying. It was a place of complete separation from God's love, where souls experience the full consequences of their choices. In that moment, I understood that hell wasn't a punishment God created out of anger. It was the natural result of choosing to live permanently separated from Him. The souls I saw weren't there because God rejected them. They were there because, during their earthly lives, they had made choices that eternalized their separation from Him. What happened next was even more intense. Jesus began revealing the truth about sexuality and gender as He had designed them. I saw how the union of male and female wasn't just physical, it was a profound spiritual reality that reflected deep truths about God's relationship with humanity. From this divine perspective, I understood that modern society's embrace of alternative lifestyles wasn't progress, but a sophisticated deception. Every step away from traditional marriage and gender roles was a step away from divine truth. Then came a stark revelation. I was shown the spiritual impact of events like pride parades, gender transition surgeries, and same-sex marriages. While they appeared joyful and celebratory on the surface, I could now see the spiritual darkness that surrounded them. The most painful part was realizing the role I had played. Through my activism and advocacy for LGBTQ+ rights, I had unknowingly led others away from the path of salvation. Jesus showed me specific moments, conversations I'd had, social media posts I'd made, and young people I'd influenced. Each instance was like a heavy stone weighing on my soul. Yet, despite the weight of this realization, I didn't feel condemnation from Jesus. Instead, I felt an overwhelming love and a deep desire for me to understand the truth. His love was transformative, not punitive. He also showed me the struggles that many of my gay friends faced, struggles they hid behind outward appearances of pride and happiness. Beneath the surface, there was often pain, confusion, and a longing for something more. Finally, I was shown two possible futures for my life. In one, I continued on my current path, refusing to change, and ultimately faced eternal separation from God. In the other, I embraced the truth, left my gay lifestyle behind, and used my experience to help others find their way back to God. The contrast between the two was undeniable and heartbreaking. The realization was clear and unavoidable. Jesus showed me that my same-sex attractions weren't my fault. They were shaped by various experiences and influences in my life. But He also made it clear that how I chose to act on them was entirely my responsibility. He revealed that while these desires might not fully disappear in this lifetime, He would provide the strength to resist them. The most powerful moment came when I saw people who had successfully left the gay lifestyle. Their struggles had been immense, but the joy they experienced in following God's truth was even greater. I saw their crowns of victory in heaven, earned through their faithfulness and the difficult choices they made on earth. I came to a profound understanding. True love isn't about affirming every choice people make. It's about guiding them toward God's truth, even when that truth is hard or unpopular. At this point, the experience shifted. I found myself in what felt like a heavenly courtroom. But instead of being judged, I was being given a choice. I could return to earth with this new understanding, or I could face judgment for my unrepented sins right then. The weight of the decision was enormous. I knew that if I returned, my life would change completely. I would lose friends, face criticism, and have to leave Marcus, someone I deeply cared about. But staying would mean facing judgment for the life I had lived. Jesus showed me that returning to earth would serve a greater purpose. My experience could help others who felt trapped in the same lifestyle I had been living. He revealed how many people were secretly questioning their choices, but were too scared or confused to make a change. I was given a glimpse of the support system that would be there for me if I chose to return. Genuine Christians who would help me navigate this transformation, counselors who understood the spiritual aspects of sexuality, and even unexpected allies. The most moving part was seeing how my story could save others. Jesus showed me specific people, some I knew, others I hadn't met yet, whose eternal destinies could be changed by my testimony. Before making my decision, I was given one final vision. I saw myself speaking to large groups, sharing my story, and helping others find freedom from the gay lifestyle. I saw tears of joy as people found healing and restoration by embracing God's design for sexuality. But I also saw the cost. I saw myself being called names like bigot and traitor by the LGBTQ+ community. I saw former friends turning their backs on me, social media attacks, and even threats to my safety. Despite this, I also saw the profound peace that comes from living in truth. The choice became clear. With a mix of fear and determination, I chose to return. The moment I made this decision, an overwhelming sense of peace and purpose filled me, even though I knew the road ahead would be difficult. Just before returning to my body, I received one final message. My mission wasn't to condemn, but to love. My task was to guide others to the truth I had discovered, always with compassion and understanding, remembering that I, too, had once been blind to it. Waking up in the hospital felt like being born again. The physical pain was intense, but it was nothing compared to the spiritual awakening I had experienced. Marcus was by my bedside, holding my hand. But deep down, I knew things between us would never be the same. The first few weeks were the hardest. Explaining my experience to Marcus broke both our hearts. He thought my head trauma Marcus believed my experience was just a result of the head trauma, that I would come to my senses once I fully recovered. But I knew in my heart that what I had seen was real. I found a supportive church community and began the challenging journey of transformation. Some days were harder than others. The same-sex attractions didn't vanish overnight. But now, I had the strength and understanding to resist them, grounded in the truth I had learned. Word of my story spread quickly on social media. As I expected, the backlash from the LGBTQ+ community was intense. Former friends accused me of internalized homophobia and betrayal. Yet for every person who criticized me publicly, there was someone else who reached out privately. They shared their own doubts about the gay lifestyle and sought guidance. Today, 2 years later, I run a support group for individuals questioning their sexual identity or seeking to leave the LGBTQ+ lifestyle. It's not about forcing change or promoting conversion therapy. It's about offering love, truth, and support to those who choose to align with God's design. The accident that nearly ended my life was the very thing that saved it, not just mine, but the lives of countless others. Every week, I receive messages from people who have found hope and healing through my testimony. Some have chosen to leave the gay lifestyle, while others are still wrestling with their decisions. But all of them now know they are deeply loved by God. My near-death experience taught me that true love sometimes means sharing difficult truths. The eternal consequences are too important to stay silent. Yes, I lost my old life, but I gained something far greater, the peace and fulfillment of living in truth. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to stay updated on more life-changing testimonies, and share this message with someone who might need to hear it today.